Imagine blending jazz, salsa, funk, soul, and Latin roots into a sound so powerful it moved generations and reshaped an entire genre. That was the magic of Eddie Palmieri. The legendary pianist, composer, and bandleader passed away on August 6th at the age of 88, and the music world is feeling that loss deeply. Known for his thunderous piano technique, his socially conscious compositions, and his bold redefinition of Latin jazz and salsa, Palmieri wasn't just an artist, he was a movement. From Harlem to Havana, from Carnegie Hall to Sing Sing Prison, his music crossed borders and broke barriers. Today, we're remembering the life and legacy of one of the most groundbreaking musicians of the 20th and 21st centuries. Buckle in as we celebrate the sound, the story, and the soul of Eddie Palmieri. Eddie Palmieri was born in Spanish Harlem in 1936 to Puerto Rican parents. Growing up in a household where music was the heartbeat, his older brother, Charlie Palmieri, was already a respected pianist, and Eddie followed in his footsteps, quite literally, starting piano lessons as a child. By age 11, he made his debut at Carnegie Hall, and just 2 years later, he was playing timbales in his uncle's Latin jazz band. But soon, he returned to the piano with a deeper understanding of rhythm and percussion that would define his unique sound. These early experiences planted the seeds for a revolutionary musical approach. Aggressive, complex, percussive, and emotionally charged. In 1961, Palmieri shook up the salsa world by forming his first band, La Perfecta. It wasn't just the name that made waves, it was the lineup. Instead of the traditional trumpet section, Palmieri introduced trombones, creating a heavier, richer brass sound that became his signature. The band's self-titled debut album was an instant classic and laid the foundation for what would become the salsa explosion in New York during the 60s and 70s. Tracks were bold, energetic, and built for the dance floor, but with arrangements so sophisticated they earned the respect of jazz musicians. Palmieri wasn't just making party music, he was composing with precision. Then came 1965, and the release of Azúcar Pa' Ti, a track that would skyrocket Palmieri into salsa stardom. With its infectious rhythm, layered horns, and unforgettable groove, the song became a dance floor anthem. But it was more than just a hit. It became a cultural milestone. Decades later, the U.S. Library of Congress added it to the National Recording Registry for its cultural and artistic significance. Palmieri's fame grew, but he never settled. Always experimenting, always pushing the envelope, he showed the world that Latin music could be both popular and progressive. Azúcar Pa' Ti was sweet indeed, but it had teeth. Palmieri wasn't just loved by fans, he was recognized by the industry. In 1975, he made history by winning the very first Grammy Award for Best Latin Recording with his album, The Son of Latin Music. That win wasn't just a personal victory. It was a turning point for Latin music's recognition in the mainstream American music world. Over the course of his career, he went on to win 10 Grammy Awards in total. But even with all the trophies and accolades, Palmieri stayed grounded in the community, often saying that music was a tool for truth, connection, and justice. Palmieri wasn't afraid to use his music as a vehicle for social change. His 1969 album, Justicia, Justice, was a bold statement, tackling themes of racial inequality, discrimination, and the struggle for civil rights, featuring vocals by Ismael Quintana and Justo Betancourt. The album's lyrics were unapologetically political. In 1972, Palmieri brought that message straight to Sing Sing Prison, performing for Latino and Black inmates. As he shouted, "For all humanity," into the prison yard, his music became a call for freedom, both literal and spiritual. Eddie Palmieri wasn't just playing keys, he was unlocking minds. Always evolving, Palmieri blurred genre lines like no one else, His 1971 project, Harlem River Drive, was a genre-bending mix of Latin jazz, funk, soul, and political commentary. It was raw, gritty, and way ahead of its time. Unlike his earlier dance floor hits, this album leaned heavily into activist themes and fused Afro-Caribbean grooves with urban American soundscapes. It was the sound of New York City, complex, multicultural, restless. Even today, Harlem River Drive is considered a landmark recording in both the Latin and soul music worlds, studied by musicians and sampled by DJs. Over a career spanning 7 decades, Eddie Palmieri didn't just create music, he created a legacy. He earned 10 Grammys, a Jazz Master Award from the National Endowment for the Arts, and a Lifetime Achievement Award from the Latin Grammys. His work influenced not just Latin artists, but musicians across genres, from jazz legends to hip-hop producers. His piano style was once compared to Thelonious Monk for its unpredictability, power, and originality. He mentored countless young musicians, always pushing them to innovate, challenge, and honor the roots. His impact was deep, far-reaching, and everlasting. Though Palmieri lived most of his life in the public eye, he was also a devoted family man. He was married to his wife Iraida until her passing in 2014, and together they had 5 children. He spent his later years in New Jersey, still active in music, still performing, and still advocating for culture and community. Even in his 80s, he brought energy to the stage that rivaled musicians half his age. His last years were filled with tributes, re-releases of his classics, and even virtual performances. On August 6, 2025, he passed away peacefully at home, surrounded by loved ones, leaving behind not just a discography, but a musical revolution. Eddie Palmieri's passing marks the end of an era, but his influence will echo forever. He taught us that music could move bodies and minds, that rhythm could be a language of resistance, and that culture is power. From his first notes at Carnegie Hall to his final message of unity, Palmieri embodied the soul of Latin music. So today, we don't just mourn a legend, we celebrate a life lived in full volume. Rest in rhythm, Eddie Palmieri. Your clave will never stop beating. If you felt his music, if you danced to his groove, or if you just want to honor his legacy, leave a comment, share your favorite track, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories that matter. Eddie Palmieri wasn't just a pioneer. He was a blueprint. His fearless experimentation opened doors for artists who were once told to stay in their lane. Musicians like Marc Anthony, Rubén Blades, and Tito Nieves have all acknowledged Palmieri's influence in shaping modern salsa and Latin jazz. But even beyond Latin genres, his rhythmic complexity and harmonic innovations inspired jazz artists, hip-hop producers, and composers across the globe. His music has been sampled, studied, and reinterpreted, but never replicated. He empowered future generations to dig deeper into their roots, embrace cultural fusion, and never compromise artistic integrity. Palmieri's message to young musicians was always the same: honor the tradition, but never be afraid to flip the script. Eddie Palmieri's legacy stretches far beyond the piano bench. He was a cultural ambassador, a bridge between the barrios of New York and the broader global music scene. His performances weren't just concerts, they were declarations of identity, pride, and resistance. In neighborhoods where representation was scarce, Palmieri showed that a Puerto Rican kid from Spanish Harlem could reach global stages without shedding his roots. His lyrics, collaborations, and public appearances always reflected a commitment to Afro-Caribbean culture, equality, and freedom. Whether playing at the White House or inside a prison yard, his message was consistent: unity through rhythm, justice through sound, and humanity above all else. Even though Eddie Palmieri is no longer with us physically, his music continues to pulse through speakers, headphones, stages, and street corners. His grooves live in every dancer's spin, every musician's solo, every child learning clave for the first time. And maybe that's the truest measure of legacy, not the awards or sold-out concerts, but the way a sound becomes part of everyday life. Eddie once said, "There are two kinds of music, the good and the forgotten." His music, no doubt, belongs to the first. So wherever you are right now, whether you're at home, in a car, or walking the city streets, play a Palmieri track today. Turn it up loud, feel the rhythm, and remember, legends like Eddie never really leave. They just become part of the beat that moves us all.